So we're gonna jump in what, the fundamentals?
The fundamentals, man. You know, like anything else, man, you know, the foundation is always the most important. I think it's human nature at times where we want the glitz and glamour before the foundation is laid. But think about a building or a house, right? Like the foundation, the rebar, the framing, it always take the longest because that's the most important. Once that there, now you can build the chandeliers and all the glitz and glamour. It's the same with writing, you know what I'm saying? Like you wanna know the basic principles, like for example, 12-point type font size is the most appeasing on the eyes when writing the book. Like you wanna be as professional as possible and make your book as easy as possible to follow. It's already difficult with our attention spans to lock into a book as it is. So mentally and subconsciously, we're thinking of a way to stop reading anyway. You want a book that just flow. You like when you read the book, you want to feel like you in the book. You don't want to feel like you read, you want to feel like you live in it. But if you call all them words, this word's big, this word's small, this is off, you want to make sure you're using the right font. You know what I'm saying? A serif font like Times Roman or Courier, those are typical, those are standard, especially when writing fictional books. So those are things that I recommend. You know, in here we talk about the spacing, you know what I'm saying? You want to double space your manuscript. That makes it easier for the editor. And the editor is your best friend. You cannot edit your own work. If anybody tells you they can edit their own work, that's the first sign of amateurism, in my opinion. It's no knock on nobody, but you're so connected with the story, it's your story. So you're gonna overlook things because it's coming from your point of view. You can look over it 1,000 times and then you can hand it to Tone and he gonna find a typo in it. It's kind of like you go like blind to errors when, man, this book I was writing, I was having 15-hour days writing this book. Like a zombie, bro, just writing. So of course I'm missing stuff. And so you want to double space so when your editor come in, they don't gotta squint and the human nature in them had them miss something. So you want to double space, no extra spaces in between paragraphs, only one space between sentences. Your indentation, when you indent your paragraphs, you want it to be a 1/2 inch. Use the tabs, you don't want to space out. And so what this is doing is just letting y'all know when it's actually time to get to typing it, you know, whether you wrote it first, these are the guidelines that will separate you from being an amateur. You know what I'm saying? Because you only get one first impression with anything in life, right? You don't want to put out a book and it's a dope story, but there's so many typos, I can't even read through it. So now so when you finally figure that out, and you put your second book out, ain't nobody gonna want to buy it because you're gonna be associated with amateurism. And that's something we can apply to life in general. You know, you always want to put your best foot forward. You only get one first impression.
You talked about, you know, writing, like that process. Were you able to, obviously you gave us some guidelines when we start typing it out. Were you able to pen it out first and then take it to the type?
So my thing was a little different. So my very first book was a movie script at first. You know, I'm gonna share the story. I was just chilling with little bro. You know, I was hustling. I was going back and forth to LA. This when I was still, you know, in that lifestyle. And one of my close buddies, you know, he was on a movie set to get his SAG card, but we doing business the other way. And I was so impressed, but I'm like, damn, right, he really in the streets, but he going to be an actor? So I'm like, man, let me see the script. So I read it, and so back and forth on the plane, I'm like, man, I could do this. So I just used his as a plug and play. So once the script was written, I'm like, how can I get this to the masses? It's gonna take money that I don't have to get it as a motion picture, but I can turn it to a book. I can put it in your hand, and build a buzz behind the book so when it is ready for the big screen, people will be familiar with it. And so mine started off as an actual script.
Okay.
But turning it into a book was a whole different ball game, bro. That's when the fundamentals came into play. And it was some very, very challenging nights, man. My editor challenged me, man, I want to cuss that lady out so many times. I'm up spending all this time on this work. I send it, she send it back, no, it ain't ready. What you mean it ain't ready? Going back, no, you can make it better. You know, show don't tell. That's something you're gonna see in the book too. What I mean by that is you wanna paint a picture in your book. You don't wanna say, Tone sit in the chair next to Cal. You wanna say, Tone postured upright with his shoulders lifted back and his chin up high as his black hat neatly curved, his, you know what I mean, his forehead. Like, you want to paint a picture. You want the reader engaged. You know what I'm saying? That's very important.
Yeah. Now, you know what's crazy? The reason why I asked that question, and I appreciate you sharing that, is for me, it's hard for me to do like rough drafts of things.
Yeah.
And so I was never able to like write something out. I had to go straight to the computer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like whatever's coming to my mind, I gotta type it. And so that's why it's important to have this structure from the jump.
Right.
Because I didn't have a notepad that I scribbled everything on and then transferred it. I was writing as I go, because I don't, you know, that's just the way I process things. But the other point that you made is getting challenged. And that's a big part of a writing process. You know what I mean? And you gotta be open and receptive to challenge and positive criticism, because I was on the path of writing a fictional story. My first book, I was like, yo, you know what I mean? I didn't necessarily I wanted to use my experiences, but not use myself or my character, and I wanted to leave some things out. I only wanted to tell a portion of it. And I'm flowing. I handed that off to somebody. I said, hey man, you know, I'm proud. Take a look at this, you know, first section. Tell me what you think. He said, nah.
That ain't it.
That ain't it. He said, you know, I'm salty. Like, dog, I done put in all this work. What you mean?
Man.
He said, nah, ain't it. Your first book need to be about you.
Okay.
That was his, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I said, you know what? I can't even argue with you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then I had to figure out not to necessarily make it about me, but use my experiences and platforms to share with others, because other people are going through some of these similar things. You feel me? So that's how, but that whole notion of being challenged, the whole notion of being open to criticism, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know, you definitely want to be, especially when the editor touched that and you got red marks everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Fundamentals are important though, definitely, for sure.
Absolutely. So next, like, I like to call it chop the tree down to size. You know, writing a book can be overwhelming. You know, it seemed like this big old project, especially when the end is so far away. You like, you know, you can be writing for hours and get nothing on the paper and just ball it up and be like, fuck it, I ain't gonna do it no more. You know what I'm saying? This is too much. And so you wanna section it off. You know what I'm saying? Break it up into quarters. Say, you know, give yourself soft time frames. You know, just as a guide to work towards, but if you don't get there, give yourself some grace. So you could say, I want to have the first chapter, or I want to have a chapter of this book written in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And so now you have a micro goal in the midst of your ultimate goal of completing this whole book. Because think about it, if I'm like, go write me a book, and that's just a blanket statement, you trying to figure out how to get one of these. Whereas if I'm like, bro, give me a chapter in 2 weeks, that gives you an obtainable goal to continue to increase your confidence in writing the book. Because it's gonna be some dark moments. It's gonna be some moments, you know, that not only challenge you, but are gonna discourage you. You know what I'm saying? And so just chop it down to size, you know what I'm saying? Section it off, you know, and give yourself grace. Give yourself soft time frames, but give yourself grace.
Yeah, I like to chop the tree down to size. And then also too, if you do, and that's why the guide piece is so critical. Like if you're not writing the whole book, if you want to write more of a guide, it's a lot easier.
Right.
Look, the 10 steps to, bomb. And so now 1, 2, 3, 4, you know what I'm saying? So I can just focus on one piece at a time. Let me just focus on step 1, then I move down to step 2.
Right, yeah, and I want to relate that to that too, because, you know, I'm speaking from an experience of writing a fictional book, but even like with this ebook or with my I got some financial literacy ebooks as well that I published. Just take one topic and then give yourself a time frame to complete that topic. So if you like, the first topic is X, I got 2 weeks to complete X. And in those 2 weeks, I'm gonna do my best to work an hour a day towards that. You got goals, you got micro goals, and once you start checking them off, like I say, It builds your confidence, it builds your momentum, and now you on the roll, you locked in, versus you feeling like you gotta do a topic a day, and when you can't do it, now you ready to give up.
So what we got, item 3, man, this is getting to it. From the brain, through the pen, onto the paper, man. What we got?
Yeah, so man, this is letting you know, man, that your idea, it gotta be something that, I like to say, it gotta be fire, not lukewarm. You know what I'm saying? It gotta be something that you're passionate about, because if you're not passionate about it, it'll translate through your work. How the people gonna believe in it if you don't believe in it? And so let it be something that you're passionate about, something that you feel like is a need for it in the world. Like even when I wrote this one, right? Like I put myself on the cover because I represent the shine. You represent the shine. You represent the shine. We all have the shine in us. So I was like transparent, put myself in front, like I'm the first to shine, because I wanted it to resonate with other men who've been in that situation, who've dealt with trauma from their past subconsciously and let it pour into their everyday life. And so, you know, when you find a topic, find something that you know people are going to relate to and that you're passionate about. That's the most important thing. Whether it's like a workout book, a cooking book, whether it's a way to channel your anger, whether it's a way to clear your mind, whatever it is, man, you got to be on fire about it. If it's just like, to you, it's going to show in your work.
Dope. Well, this is what we're going to do, man. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to check the YouTube live. We're going to see what questions we have. We're going to come back. We're going to answer that. Obviously, we got a live audience as well, too, so we're going to get some questions and answer period there, man, and we're going to keep it rocking. So we'll be back in just a few minutes.